Hello and welcome back to Dragon Age Origins. So I said last time we were going to finish off all the side quests last episode. I was maybe a little bit optimistic. It might take a couple episodes. I think we should be able to finish them in this episode, but depends how much storytelling people have to do. Liliana, you're next on the storytelling block.
Something I can help with?
I'd like to talk to you about something.
Yes? What's on your mind?
Do you have any tales to share?
Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Okay. Do you know any stories from Olay?
Of course, Olesians enjoy telling stories. I shall tell you my favorite tale of Abilene, the Knight of Olay.
That sounds interesting.
A long time ago, a girl child was born to a farmer. He had hoped for a son, not a daughter, and so he told his wife to abandon the child in the woods. Before the cold could claim her, the baby was found by a tribe of Dalish elves who took pity on the poor mewling thing and raised her as their own. Abilene, for that is what they called her, grew strong and quick and clever under the guidance of the elves. She learned to wield the sword as well as any man, could kill a deer with an arrow at 100 paces, and was as graceful on the back of a horse as she was on foot.
Yeah, I saw that coming. She was with the elves.
Many legends have familiar forms and themes. We enjoy them so because we know them. Aveline's Dalish guardians saw that she could easily best any Olesian chevalier in battle, and wanted to show the cruel humans the child they had left to die. They bestowed upon her a fine horse and armor, and sent her to prove herself to her people in the grand tourney. Now in those days, no woman was allowed to take up arms, let alone compete in the grand tourney, but Abilene kept her helmet on and was not discovered.
This sounds an awfully lot like like A Knight's Tale. You know, that one with Heath Ledger? Anyway, yeah, did she win the tourney?
Abilene won many events and gained the approval of the adoring crowd. Eventually, she came face to face with the knight Kaleva in the grand melee. Abilene had already bested him in the jousts, and Kaleva was determined not to lose a second time. Out of desperation to regain his honor, Kaleva tripped Abilene and tossed her to the ground, ripping off her helmet as he did so. Silence fell upon the arena as Abilene was revealed. Kaleva declared the previous competitions invalid. A woman had taken part, and this was not allowed. But the crowd cheered for Abilene. Kaleva was furious, for he had lost to a woman and was now being shamed. Blinded by his rage, he forced Abilene to her knees. "Know your place, woman," cried he, and slit her throat.
What? I didn't see that coming. Where's the happy ending?
The son of the king, Prince Freyan, was present. He recognized Aveline's skill and bravery and began to see the injustice done to the women in his land. When he was made king, he rewrote the laws of Olay so that women could also become chevalier. He honored Abilene and knighted her after her death. And to this day, any female who is knighted reveres Abilene the Brave, for she is the patron of all women chevalier.
So, do you know anything about Ferelden's legends?
I know one, told to me by my mother a long time ago. It always chilled me to the bone. Maybe you have heard of Flemeth?
Yeah, I believe that Morgan's mother is Flemeth.
Are you sure? Was she the Flemeth of legend? Flemeth, the devourer of men? Flemeth, mother of witches? Flemeth, demon-touched, who dwells in the mists?
She didn't introduce herself that way.
Ferelden mothers scare their daughters with talk of Flemeth. They say that if you're bad, Flemeth will spirit you away and bind you to her forever. They also say that Flemeth mourns her lost beauty.
Sounds an awful lot like what Morrigan just told us.
If she catches you.
Okay. Tell me the whole story. I want to know if there's anything we're going to come up against.
Flemeth's beauty was known throughout the land. She had hair like unto a moonless night, skin as pale as winter's first snow, and eyes as beautiful and perilous as the sea. When she came of age, she came to the attention of the Lord of Highever, Conobar, and he took her for his wife. Conobar soon learned that his young bride had the gift of magic. He kept this a secret, for he feared that she would be taken from him. Flemeth stayed with Conobar for some years, and with his blessing, she practiced her art. And then one day, a young poet named Osen came to the castle. Flemeth was captivated by Osen's voice, and he by her beauty, and they fell in love.
Oh, plot thickens.
Flemeth longed to be with her true love, and she and Osen fled from Conobar's lands, seeking refuge in the Kokari wilds with the Chasing tribes. They lived there happily for many a year, till the day Flemeth received news that Conobar was dying and longed to see her face one last time. Flemeth's heart swelled with pity for the man who once was her husband, and begged Osen to return to Conobar's side with her. But when Flemeth and Osen entered Highever, they were captured by Conobar's men, and Osen was slain in front of Flemeth's eyes. Flemeth was imprisoned in the highest tower of the castle, there to await Conobar's judgment on her. Distraught at the loss of her love, Flemeth plotted revenge against her husband. She summoned a fey demon, intending for it to wreak vengeance on Conobar. But a spell went awry. The demon possessed Flemeth. Turning her into an abomination, the halls of the castle ran red with blood as Flemeth slaughtered Conobar and all his men. The last of Flemeth's humanity melted away, and at dawn, she stole back to the wilds to plot and scheme for 100 years. They say she took to her side many Chasing men, and with their help, begat her daughter witches, who even now prowl the dark places of the Kokari wilds.
Uh-huh. Interesting. That wasn't quite the story Morgan told us, but she said that this was the story that most people knew. Let's hear about the Darkspawn.
Chantry lore says it is man's pride that created the Darkspawn. In ages past, the mages of the Tevinder Imperium ruled much of the world we know. In their pride, they thought their magics invincible and imagined that they were greater than the Maker himself. So thinking, they invaded his golden city, planning to take it for themselves and depose their own creator. But they were impure and full of sin, and it is with the sin that they tainted the golden city, corrupting it forever. The Maker cursed them and cast them from his sight. Wherever they went, they spread the taint of their sin. Any land that was touched by the taint became blighted and would suffer no life. Instead, the Darkspawn arose to torment us and remind us of our hubris.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's all of it? So there was another story I wanted to hear.
Which one?
So, do you know anything about the Dalish?
I know little about your people, but I may be misinformed, and I would hate to offend you.
Oh. Well, we must learn more about each other.
I have heard a little about how the Elves gained their freedom from the Tevinter Imperium. When Andraste began her exalted march against the Imperium, the Elves joined her cause to fight their masters. The great elven leader, Shatan, born in captivity, rose up to lead his people. He foresaw a future where the Elves were free. Shatan was killed when Andraste was betrayed, but the Elves continued to fight, eventually breaking free of the Imperium. The Elves claimed the Dales in the south and settled there in the land of their own.
Didn't last.
The Elves lived in the Dales for centuries. They resurrected the worship of the elven gods and would allow the building of no chantry. This angered the chantry, and the hostility between the two factions finally broke out in open war. The chantry says the Elves struck first, but I do not know whether to believe it. The chantry declared a wholly exalted march against the Elves, named for Andraste's similar march against Tevinter. During the exalted march of the Dales, the elven cities were sacked, and the elven state completely dissolved. Some of the Elves bitterly accepted their fates and surrendered to human rule, living in the human cities as second-class citizens. But others, still fiercely proud of their heritage, refused to bow to the humans, and instead became homeless wanderers. They were the Elves of the Dales, the Dalish.
Interesting. And what about Andraste?
Andraste was the Maker's chosen. The Maker had long since abandoned the world when the sound of her singing turned his ear. Beauty, grace, and wisdom enraptured him, and he offered to take her from this flawed world to become his divine bride. But Andraste had an earthly husband and would not forsake him. Instead, she beseeched the Maker to return to his people once more. So earnest was her plea that the Maker was moved, and promised that he would create a paradise on earth if all abandoned their false gods and turned once more to him. And this is why Andraste began her exalted march on the idolaters of the Tevinter Imperium. The Maker granted her his powers with which to smite her enemies. Andraste brought the Imperium to its knees, and her victories converted many to the worship of the Maker.
She noticed that in the subtitles, every time her appears, it's capitalized. Wonder if that's like a chantry thing? So, how did Andraste die?
Alas, it was the frailties of men that betrayed and killed Andraste. Her earthly husband, Maferath, a chieftain of the Alamari tribes himself, grew jealous as his wife's popularity and influence overshadowed his own. She was also revered as the Maker's betrothed, and Maferath began to see their own bond waning in significance as Andraste became ever more devoted to the Maker. Out of envy and spite, Maferath made a pact with the Archon Hysarian of Tevinter, allowing his beloved Andraste to be ambushed and captured. Andraste was burned at the stake in Minrathous, the capital of Tevinter.
Oh. So why did the Maker not save her?
I have thought on this too. Did he withdraw his sight from her at that moment? Where were all the powers he bestowed upon her?
He and his are also
This question has
capitalized.
come to me many times, and I have no answer. Perhaps there was no way for Andraste to return to the Maker but through her death. We will never know for sure.
Okay. See if Liliana has anything else to tell us.
Something I can help with? Yes? What's on your mind?
Tales.
Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Heard all of those.
Which one?
And we've heard all of those.
It will come to you soon, I'm sure.
Okay, so Liliana doesn't have much to say, although I think we might have to take her out as well so that she can get a random event that pops up. Now, Wynne. Hello.
Oh, it's been a long day. Rest would be welcome.
Are you alright?
Yes, of course. I am just a little weary. As you may have noticed, I'm no spring chicken.
No, you're a person.
Ha, very funny. But in all honesty, I do not know how many years I have left in me. I have lived for such a long time, but there is always something else to do. And I have to keep going in order to do it. I think I will be glad when I am done.
Yeah, you'll be kicking around for years. You've got lots of time left.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't.
Okay, do you want to be a little bit less depressing?
Have you encountered many abominations, apart from the ones in the Circle Tower?
Well, there was the boy, yeah.
Ah, yes, Connor, of course. The first time I saw an abomination, my blood turned to ice. It was months before the nightmares stopped. It was the knowledge that I could easily become one of them that frightened me the most.
Oh. Yeah. That could be unsettling.
One slip. All it takes is one slip, and everything you are is simply gone. Replaced by madness. And there is no turning back. Or at least that's what they say.
You have doubts?
Of late, I have begun to wonder if there is any way an abomination can be cured. Or if a mage could be so possessed and still retain their sanity, their humanity.
Sounds like Flemeth, in a way. Why do you care about it, though?
Because every mage lives with this threat. It is constantly on our minds. Do not trouble yourself, though. This is only an old lady giving voice to her musings.
Okay. Anything else?
So, tell me, how did you become a Grey Warden?
This is very much she asks the questions here. Yeah, I was tainted and the joining was the cure.
Then you became a Grey Warden out of necessity. But Duncan must also have seen something special in you. The Order does not take in recruits just to save their life. You must be proud to be able to represent your tribe and the Dalish as a Grey Warden.
Yep. Suppose.
Sometimes it gives me comfort to think that everything will end up the way it's supposed to. That it will be all right. You were chosen. You survived the joining when others did not. Perhaps it was meant to be.
Okay. Anything else?
I must ask, what does being a Grey Warden mean to you?
Does it have to mean something?
I just wanted to know what you thought being a Grey Warden was about. Ultimately, being a Grey Warden is about serving others.
Is it?
About serving all
It's about killing
people,
Darkspawn.
whether elves or dwarves or men.
But they bow to no one.
As a Grey Warden, you are a guardian of men, and you guard them because their continued existence is more important than you are. Thus it is you who serves, not they.
Yeah, suppose. Don't like it.
A good king, a true king who cares for his land, uses his power to rule firmly but fairly. He serves his people first and foremost. The king who does not do this, who believes that he is entitled to his power, who abuses it and uses it for his own means, is a tyrant.
Many kings are tyrants.
And the country suffers for it. If you live apart from others, and your actions affect only you, then you may do as you wish. But if you have power, influence, and strength, your every action will be as a drop of water in a clear, still pond. The drop causes ripples, and ripples spread. Think of how far they will go, how wide they will become, how will they affect the pond. But I've lectured enough for today. I should stop before I wear out my welcome.
Okay, can we ask questions?
You're quite taken with each other, aren't you?
Oh. It's for fun.
I've noticed your blossoming relationship, and I wanted to ask you where you thought it was going. She is a cunning woman, a maleficar. She will use you for her own ends.
I hope so. No. I trust her.
I am telling you what I see and what my instincts tell me. And even if the feelings you share are genuine, this affair may not be the best thing for either of you. You are a Grey Warden. You have responsibilities which supersede your personal desires.
I can handle my responsibilities in my relationships.
Love is ultimately selfish. It demands that one be devoted to a single person who may fully occupy one's mind and heart to the exclusion of all else. A Grey Warden cannot afford to be selfish. You may be forced to make a choice between saving your love and saving everyone else. And then what would you do?
You're making things sound very dire.
Nothing is certain. Not in these times. You cannot take anything for granted. I want you to be aware of this.
Yeah, I'm old enough to think for myself, thank you very much.
Obviously not, if you think that this fling of yours is going to endure. I have given my advice. Do with it what you will.
She is a very, very preachy lady. And I'm going to ask her questions now.
What's on your mind?
Yeah. Are you feeling better?
Oh, yes, and thank you for asking. I'm feeling much better today.
So I'm just making sure all the companions are well.
Well, thank you for your kindness, my dear. It certainly warms these rickety old bones.
She sounds sarcastic when she's saying that.
What's on your mind?
Okay. I was thinking about being a Grey Warden.
Is something troubling you?
I'd kind of like to go back to just, being a Dalish person. A richer Dalish person, but a Dalish person.
A Grey Warden should put aside the person that he used
living in the
to
forest.
be. It has shaped the person that he is, but he has become something greater. Grey Wardens have no titles. They owe no allegiance to a king or lord. They cannot serve one people. They must serve them all and protect them all. You are one of the 2 surviving Grey Wardens in Ferelden. You defend all of us, and much rests on your shoulders. It may not mean much to you, but thank you for having the courage to continue to fight.
I'll be ready when the time comes.
And that gives me hope.
Okay.
Have you heard much about the Grey Wardens of old?
I know they soared through the skies on Griffons.
Griffons. Alas, that seems to be the only thing people remember from the tales. The mighty flying mounts that bore the Grey Wardens into battle.
I would like a Griffin.
Unfortunately, they've all passed back into the Maker's hand. So that wish will have to go unfulfilled. It was said that watching the Wardens ride in on their white griffins was enough to rouse a weary heart and put the dance back in the step of an old man. The Grey Wardens were powerful, feared and respected, but they also inspired the common people. I remember a tale that was told to me many years ago.
Oh, does the story of Griffins in it?
Maker's mercy, it's like talking to a child.
So does it have Griffins in it, or not?
Yes, there are Griffins in this story. The Blight had ravaged the land for months, and the armies of the great kings had amassed for one last stand. As the sun burst through the clouds that boiled and churned in the dark sky above, it illuminated a vast, seething horde of darkspawn, with the archdemon at its head. And it was then, when courage seemed to fail, and all lost to death and despair, that the Grey Wardens came. They arrived with the beating of wings like mighty war drums, and stood before the armies of men.
Griffins.
Yes, Griffons. Now listen to the rest of the story. The Grey Wardens, grim and fearless, marched forth, ever between the men and the encroaching darkspawn. They formed a shield of their own bodies and held that line until the archdemon was dead, and the last darkspawn lay trampled in the dirt. And then, demanding neither reward nor recognition for their sacrifice, the Grey Wardens departed. When the clouds finally rolled back, and the sun shone full upon the blighted ground, the great kings knew that they had lost no men, and none of their blood had been spilled.
So, this story isn't about any specific battle, is it?
You are observant. This is a tale about no battle the Grey Wardens have fought, and yet about them all. They have always defended us from the Darkspawn, taking losses so we do not have to. People may have forgotten over the centuries, but nothing has changed. This knowledge has been blessing and burden to Grey Wardens past, and now it shall be your blessing and your burden.
Okay. So she has a lot of knowledge about Grey Wardens.
What's on your mind?
Not so much about Griffins. So as a Grey Warden, I'll never lead a normal life, will I?
No, you won't.
You're pretty blunt.
Were you expecting an, oh, I'm sure you will. You'll have dozens of babies and die happy and old in your bed. No, you won't. If I had said that, it would have been a lie, and I would have been doing you an injustice. You wonder sometimes, don't you? If your life would be better if you weren't who you are.
Well, no, I'd probably be dead. So no, I quite like what it is right now.
I didn't. Not for a long time. When I was a young woman in the tower, I came to the realization that the circle would be my life, and I would know no other. Family, love, a simple life. These were things that others took for granted, that I would never have.
And this upset you?
It made me very moody. All I could think of was being trapped in that tower with no way out and no end in sight. I started hating my life and myself, and one night I found myself in the tower's chapel. I was seeking refuge, maybe answers.
Did you find anything?
I must have looked tearful or made some noise, because the revered mother came out and decided to speak to me. And because I had no one else to talk to, I talked to her. I must have said many silly things, but she told me that the Maker puts us all on our paths for a reason, and fighting our intended course is what causes so much anguish.
And that made you feel better?
I thought the old biddy was full of rubbish. I was 15, maybe 16, and I knew everything. So I left, but I always found my way back to that chapel. And as the years passed, I began to see the truth of her words. We were supposed to be polar opposites, mage and priest. But we weren't. There was much about us that was the same.
So, all this nonsense is gonna make me throw up.
You're not the first person to have said that, believe me. I was once just as angry at everything as you were. You can scream and cry and be angry about life as a Grey Warden. Or you can accept it and allow yourself to see the good in it. This is your choice.
Okay.
What's on your mind?
I'd like to ask you about the circle.
I will answer to the best of my ability.
Why didn't you want to stay at the tower?
The circle is in good hands. Irving knows what to do, and he doesn't need me underfoot. For now, I will support those that battle the Darkspawn. I do feel I left things unfinished in Ostagar. There is so much left to do, and I would be part of it.
Okay. Well, suppose I'm happy you're here.
The Grey Wardens, all 2 of you, need all the help you can get.
Oh, don't say it like that.
I will see this through to the bitter end, and after that, if I am still left standing, then I will return to the circle.
Yeah, sure you'll be able to return if you want.
Perhaps. What's on your mind?
More about the circle.
I will answer to the best of my ability.
So how did you become a mage?
People don't become mages. They are born mages. The talent just surfaces later. But you are asking how I ended up at the circle. I was brought there by the Templars, just like many of the other apprentices. I don't remember very much. I was very young then.
Oh. What about your family?
I didn't have a family. I never knew my real parents. My earliest memory was of hiding in a hayloft on a farm, trying to keep warm. I was found, and the farmer's wife was kind enough not to send me away. But they had children of their own, and I was never made to feel welcome. The eldest son was the worst. He was always calling me a stray, and throwing anything he could get his hands on at me. And I don't know how it happened, but one day, he just found his hair on fire.
Oh.
Fortunately, there was a large trough nearby.
So was he seriously hurt?
I had singed his hair and eyebrows, but injured little other than his pride. Who knows what they would have done to me had he been more seriously hurt. Thankfully, all I had to endure was a few nights locked in a cold barn with a bowl of water and a crust of bread. The Templars arrived several mornings later.
Ah. What happened when you arrived at the tower?
I'll never forget the moment the Templars led me into the entrance hall of the tower. I had never seen anything so grand in my life. I stopped being afraid then. I knew I was home.
Don't get sentimental on me now.
I will stop. Reminiscence on times long gone should be a private, self-indulgent pastime.
And what was life like in the tower?
I would be lying if I said it was easy. First, there were rules, and we were constantly watched to make sure we behaved appropriately. Then there was the study of magic. We had to cast the spells just so, control the effects completely. A single word spoken incorrectly, a gesture out of sync, and lack of focus. And we needed to have perfect focus, or we would be in danger.
Danger from what?
From Fade spirits. If we were careless, they would enter our minds, and we would become abominations. Without the Circle and my mentors, I would not have been where I am today. And there was joy in life at the Circle. The joys of fellowship, in knowing that you were not alone in your struggles. In spite of everything, I was happy in the tower, and I loved it.
Oh, there's nothing else I want to discuss right now. So, yes, I was entirely optimistic that we were going to get all of the side quests done in one episode, because this is the end of the second episode of them, and we've just finished talking to everyone. And I will see you next time, where we probably will finish them off. See you then. Goodbye.